And this is where things start to get interesting in a lot of ways. I don't like this zone. I'm going to be perfectly honest. As much as I have said numerous times, I do prefer Sonic 3 over Sonic & Knuckles. If you were to ask me to pick my least favorite zone of just Sonic 3, it would be this. I'll be honest, I actually completely forgot the name of this zone. Like, I think this is Carnival Night? But I almost want to say Casino Night, but I think that's a different Sonic game. I think that's Sonic 2. Also, say hello to the Barrels of Doom, a very notorious staple of Sonic 3. And yeah, the retro engine in general, while it does replicate classic Sonic really well, it does mess up crushing physics. So, like, the Barrels of Doom are even worse now than they used to be. But obviously, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the soundtrack. So, this is definitely one of those things where I almost feel like it's common knowledge at this point with how much discussion there's been about this game and this particular release. But this is not the original song, obviously, for Carnival Night. This is a song that was designed for the beta version of Sonic 3, but then they changed composers partway through to arrange some new tracks. And as a result, those tracks are in the Genesis version, and these tracks were in the PC Sonic & Knuckles collection. Obviously, these tracks are very divisive. I feel like in some cases, the tracks are actually not that bad. In other cases, they are very bad. This is one of like the worst examples, in my opinion. For a couple reasons, actually. Like, to be honest, I've never been a fan of the Genesis Carnival Night. However, I actually really liked a version that was discovered in a beta that leaked. I am trying to figure out how to get through here because it caused the platform to disappear. So, like, do I go really far away to get the platform to despawn? Or do I just, like, jump at a certain time? I mean, in this version, obviously, I can have Tails carry me, but I'm wondering how to actually deal with that in the original. But anyway, as I was saying, because of the soundtrack being changed out, there is a prototype version. I think it was leaked or discovered in like 2019 or something. It was a few years ago, but people found a prototype version that had the PC songs in a Genesis sound font, and they sounded way better. However, these songs are not the versions from that beta. These are different, presumably earlier versions of those beta tracks. That's the theory I've seen, at least. And they sound noticeably worse. Specific Carnival Night sounds notoriously worse compared to the beta track that we're more familiar with. So yeah, it's very interesting, actually, that the beta tracks that we knew of weren't actually the ones in this collection. People actually, like myself, were actually kind of excited at first because some people do prefer the leaked beta tracks, but these are not the same arrangements, so they actually are, like, it's sort of a situation where, like, no one's happy. Like, people who like the beta songs aren't happy with these being, like, yeah, apparently, like, earlier versions that do not sound as good, and obviously people who love the Genesis originals are also not happy that the songs were replaced in the first place. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation. It's just because of legal issues that they can't... Basically, for a long time, they didn't even release the game at all because of these songs. So replacing them means they can put out this collection, but it does mean that the iconic songs are gone. Anyway, we have our next boss. This one is honestly really annoying. Basically, we have to get this little disc to fly into the robot, which is... Also, crushing can happen. Yeah, I've had that happen on my test playthroughs as well, just getting, like, crushed between the blocks and the disc. Also, it kept the color palette from the damage animation. So yeah, it's kind of messed up. Again, this game has some issues that fixed it though. But obviously this is kind of a race against the clock. Obviously you don't want to take too much time because your platform is disappearing here. Yeah, in general, I'm not really crazy about this boss fight just because it takes a while, and it's kind of out of your control as well because of having to just wait for the disc to deal damage. It means you're kind of just hoping for the best, and yeah, it's kind of out of your control. Like right now, it's destroying everything and not even getting close to the robot, which I'm not a fan of as I'm running out of ground here. Yeah, I have like very little ground left, so let's hope this is the last hit. It was, thankfully, so we did survive, but that was definitely too close for comfort. Alright, so now we have to wait until this platform drops down, and that'll conclude the stage. I think my problem with these arrangements is they kind of feel lethargic, if that makes sense. Like, the beta versions that we're more familiar with are a lot more upbeat than this. Like, they're the same arrangements, but more upbeat. And so these just feel kind of like not fitting for a carnival. Yeah, lethargic, I think is the best way I can think to describe them. So now the barrels are definitely back in full force. I am trying to remember what to do here, to be honest. You're also drowning, so that's not great. But we survived, thankfully. Some of these spring placements are also really rude. Like, they just seem like they're designed to push you all the way back to where you just were. Yeah, in general, I am happy to finally have, like, an official version of Sonic 3 again on, like, console and PC and everything. It's just a shame that, obviously, licensing prevented the original soundtracks. There is also one more original piece that I have not talked about that was actually created for this collection, and that is the Supersonic theme. We've actually only used Supersonic in bosses, so let's actually transform really quickly just to demonstrate. The Supersonic song is actually original and is actually not liked, like, at all, mainly because of the sound font used. The main complaint is, this is basically like a remix of like the Sonic and Knuckles Supersonic theme, which, to be fair, was also really not great because it had like a 3-second loop. But this song is also not too great either, because the main complaint that everyone has is that it uses the like percussion sample of like Sonic 2 and not Sonic 3, which has a very different like percussion sound to it. So it makes it feel like out of place, and worse than that, it reminds people of Sonic 4. Because Sonic 4 used a very similar like percussion sample for all of its songs. So when people first heard the song, everyone's immediate thoughts were, wow, this sounds like something out of Sonic 4, which is not a compliment. People hate that soundtrack. Alright, so we're back to the Barrels of Doom, so we have to basically hold down and then press up to kind of cause them to rise and fall, like so, and then we can jump up here. It's one of those things where it's like, I've definitely played this game a lot, so I don't have a problem with the Barrel of Doom, but a lot of times when people play this game for the first time, these barrels are actually like weirdly, as I was saying, before Knuckles interrupted us, these barrels are like weirdly like troublesome for like first-time playthroughs, where people just don't know how exactly they're supposed to be controlled. And also, this is like, in my opinion, next to CD, this is like the first like actual mainline Sonic stage that wasn't in a numbered title, I should say, because Sonic CD is mainline too, it's just not numbered. This is like the first Sonic stage in like a numbered game where I actually feel like it's realistic that you might time out. The stage is very long, and yeah, it's not easy to get through, and so yeah, in general, I almost feel like Carnival Night in general is kind of a slog as far as like Sonic 3 stages go. There was a Sonic and Knuckles stage I like less than this. We'll get to that when we go through that portion of the adventure, because I definitely have a lot of thoughts about that particular stage. But I definitely feel like the music makes this like tedious feeling stage feel even more tedious than it does normally. Like, without the really upbeat, catchy music, it's even more of a slog. Yeah, this is kind of the low point of Sonic 3, thankfully. Like, as far as low points go, this isn't even terrible. Like, as much as I'm like, yeah, this is my least favorite stage in Sonic 3, that's not bad, really. Like, that's actually a compliment in some ways, that this is like the worst that it gets in this game. I mean, there have been way worse Sonic stages that we've seen throughout our journey through Origins. So yeah, if this is the worst that this game has to offer, that's pretty good, actually. And definitely better than, like, some things you might see in a Sonic 4 Episode 1, specifically. Or, like, a Sonic, advanced, like, level setup. So yeah, I'll definitely, like, it's definitely a, like, count your blessings kind of a thing, where it's like, yeah, even though this is the low point in my opinion, I definitely think this is still way more playable than some actual bad Sonic stages. Also, I need to specify, as usual, that, like, even though I don't like the stage, it's totally, like, just my opinion, if that makes sense. So, like, I definitely feel like, it is still an okay stage, it's just, to me, like, the least remarkable. I think there's a giant ring up here, actually, but actually trying to get to here is... We finally have one of the other bonus stages. You could actually tell because the sparkles were white instead of red. But we have these little bumpers like the ones in Metropolis, and we have completely been locked out of actually... Yeah, that didn't go well. We got locked out of actually being able to move because of breaking too many of the little, like bounce panels too early, so we couldn't even reach the, like, gotcha machine, so that was unfortunate. Another barrel over here, so let's try to make our way. I think we have to go down from here, so we actually have to jump off like this, and then quickly duck through while the platform is still going up and down. I feel like I have gotten crushed there before, somehow, and I'm not even sure how that happened. In general, I feel like these barrels are, like, the scariest thing, because of, like, trying to get through, like, series of barrels in a row, without spin dashing, because there's a chance you might accidentally, like, clip the underside of it while spin dashing, and then you'll get crushed. So, but then walking feels like you're not going to go fast enough to actually make it safely across, so it is a sort of tough call sometimes of, like, do you spin dash or do you, like, try to be careful? Yeah, we're at 6 minutes, by the way, and I think we're getting close to the end, but yeah, that's, like, a testament to how, like, really long some of these stages are. And we have 87 rings, we're fine. I was thinking about getting the giant ring, but I think it's more trouble than it's worth. I'm pretty sure there's also a glitch in this version, though, where the time over doesn't work properly. I don't know if they fixed that or not, but I remember that being an issue, where you actually can't time out in a stage. So I guess we're up here now, where we have the boss. Let's actually turn to Supersonic again, just to speed this up. Basically, this boss will drop this, like, metal ball, and will drop down to try to, like... Well, actually, the boss will, like, electrocute it. And then, I think this pulls you in, too? Yeah, it does. And then he'll, like, drop down to try to pick it back up. And that's your key to attack. But again, we're Supersonic, we can actually speed this up a lot. But again, I wanted to take a moment to actually explain it because of that being kind of a unique boss. And we have another very infamous omission. Ice Cap is largely considered to be one of the best classic Sonic songs, or at least one of the best songs in Sonic 3 at minimum. And that song is gone too. So we have this beta song, but this one is better than Carnival Night. This is, like, actually pretty close to the beta version that we are familiar with. So yeah, unlike Carnival Night, where the version is completely different than what everyone was expecting, and definitely wasn't very good, at least Ice Cap's beta theme is relatively close to what we were expecting. Also, one thing worth mentioning is on this collection, a lot of the songs in Sonic 1, 2, and CD are actually like higher quality than the Genesis versions of the songs, but in this game, they're actually pretty low quality. They're actually closer to like the Genesis audio quality sound, which definitely means that the songs that are already kind of like divisive, like Carnival Night, sound even more muddy than they would normally. So yeah, that definitely doesn't help people's opinion on like Carnival Night in particular. But again, this one actually isn't bad. I don't think it's as good as the original Ice Cap, but it definitely fared better than Carnival Night. The other song was actually very directly an existing song. If I'm not mistaken, it was an unreleased song that was eventually released. Hard Times by the Jetsons, that is. I almost feel like some of these Sonic, the soundtrack of Sonic 3 almost, I feel like I've mentioned this analogy before, but it almost feels like bringing up like really well-known trivia and acting like it's new information. So sometimes I'm like, like how people always make fun of like when people point out that like Mario 2 is Doki Doki Panic in Japan. I almost feel like the Sonic 3 soundtrack is getting to that point where it's becoming like almost common knowledge at a point, especially with Origins basically confirming a lot of the music rights issues. I remember doing a one-off video on Sonic Origins to talk about some of the problems. I'm pretty sure I got stuck at this exact spot, and I'm pretty sure I brought up that exact analogy in this, or a very close by spot to this. So yeah, in general, I definitely feel like it's worth like mentioning a lot of the soundtrack changes and other glitches in this collection, because a big debate over this version of the game is like not only for the music but just like other glitches as well. Like, are the trade-offs worth having a modern port of Sonic 3, basically? Like, that is a common debate actually, of like, yeah, there are multiple trade-offs, and is it worth it? Personally, I'm kind of torn. In some ways I'd say yes, in other ways I'd say no. But I'm also I'll fully admit that I'm not like the expert on this topic. Again, as someone who's more of a casual fan of Sonic 3, I definitely don't feel like my take on this game has as much weight as, the people who find Sonic 3 to be the best, basically. Because I'm like, this game's really great, but it's not my favorite. I almost feel like I don't and will not mind some of the changes as much as someone who like really likes Sonic 3, in which case the changes are kind of deal breakers, actually. So we have this robot surrounded by ice, but we trivialized it with Supersonic.